The transport ship dropped out of hyperspace with a soft hum. Through the thick glass window, Park could see the Galactic Military Academy floating in the darkness of space. It was massive. The station stretched for miles in every direction, with hundreds of lights blinking like stars trapped inside metal walls. Pressed his hand against the cold glass. He was 23 years old, born in a small town on Earth, and now he was about to become the first human ever admitted to the most famous military academy in the known galaxy. His heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. He had learned long ago to hide his feelings. The other passengers on the transport ship were all aliens. Some had 4 arms. Some had scales covering their bodies. Others floated instead of walking. None of them looked at. They whispered to each other in languages he did not understand, but he could feel their eyes on him when he was not looking. Humans were new to the galactic community. Earth had only made first contact 5 years ago. Most species still thought of humans as primitive creatures from a dangerous world. They called Earth a death planet because of its harsh conditions, the extreme temperatures, the violent storms, the predators that hunted in every corner. Had heard the jokes. He had seen the looks of pity and disgust. But he did not care. He was here to prove something. The transport ship docked with a loud click. The doors opened and cold air rushed inside, grabbed his small bag and walked out with the others. The docking bay was enormous. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species stood in groups, waiting for instructions. The noise was overwhelming, clicks, whistles, growls, and sounds that could not even describe. A tall figure moved through the crowd. It was a creature, standing almost 8 feet tall, with a hard shell covering its body and 4 long arms folded behind its back. Its eyes were black and shiny, like polished stones. A metal badge on its chest showed its rank, Commander. "Attention, new cadets," the creature said. Its voice was sharp and loud, cutting through all the noise. Everyone went silent immediately. "I am Commander. You are now property of the Galactic Military Academy. Your old lives are gone. Your species does not matter here. Your families do not matter here. Only your performance matters." Stood straight and listened. He had heard speeches like this before, back in military training on Earth, but this was different. This was real. Commander walked slowly through the crowd, looking at each cadet with those dark eyes. When he reached, he stopped. For a long moment, he just stared. "Human," said. The word sounded like an insult. "Yes, Commander," replied. His voice was steady. "I have read your file. Your species is interesting. Soft bodies, no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. Yet you survived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy." Leaned closer. His breath smelled like metal. "I wonder how long you will survive here." Did not look away. "I plan to find out, Commander." Something flickered in his eyes. It might have been surprise. It might have been amusement. Then he turned and walked away, continuing his inspection. A small creature standing next to let out a nervous breath. It was a species that looked like thin, furry cats standing on 2 legs. Its ears were flat against its head, a sign of fear. "You should not have spoken to him like that," the whispered. "He will remember you now." Shrugged. "Good." The stared at him with wide, golden eyes. "You are either very brave or very stupid." "Maybe both," said with a small smile. This name was. He was young, barely an adult by his species standards, and he had been sent to the academy by his family to bring honor to their name. As they waited for the next instructions, told about the academy. It was over 500 years old. Thousands of species had trained here. The graduation rate was low, less than 30%. Many cadets quit. Some were sent home injured. A few never returned at all. "The training is harsh," said, his voice trembling slightly. "They test everything: strength, speed, intelligence, and pain." Raised an eyebrow. "Pain." Nodded quickly. "The pain tolerance examination. Every cadet must take it during the first week. They use machines to simulate the worst pain you can imagine. Most cadets pass out at level 3. The record is level 15. set by a warrior 200 years ago. Thought about this. On Earth, he had experienced many kinds of pain. He had broken bones. He had been burned. He had pushed his body until it screamed at him to stop. Pain was not new to him. Pain was just a signal, a warning from the body that something was wrong, and warnings could be ignored. "Interesting," said simply. Before could respond, Commander's voice echoed through the docking bay again. "All cadets will now proceed to the orientation hall. Move quickly. We do not wait for the slow or the weak." The crowd began to move. Walked with them, his bag over his shoulder, his eyes taking in everything around him. The academy was even more impressive on the inside. The hallways were wide and tall, designed for species of all sizes. Screens on the walls displayed maps, schedules, and announcements in dozens of languages. Robots moved silently along the floors, cleaning and repairing. In the orientation hall, thousands of chairs were arranged in perfect rows. Found a seat near the middle and sat down. Sat next to him, still looking nervous. On the stage at the front of the hall, several officers stood in a line. Commander was among them. Next to him was a skinned female with large, dark eyes and thin fingers. She wore a white uniform with a medical symbol on the chest. "That is Instructor," whispered. "She runs the medical division. She is the one who conducts the pain tolerance examination." Looked at, she seemed calm and professional, her hands folded neatly in front of her. But there was something in her eyes, a coldness that made think she had seen many cadets break. The orientation began. Speakers talked about the academy's history, its rules, its expectations. Listened carefully, memorizing everything important. But his mind kept returning to the pain tolerance examination. He was curious about it. He wanted to know how far the machine could go. He wanted to know how far he could go. When the orientation ended, the cadets were sent to their quarters. His room was small but clean, with a bed, a desk, and a window looking out at the stars. He set his bag down and stood by the window for a long time thinking. Tomorrow the training would begin. Tomorrow he would start proving that humans were more than soft, weak creatures from a death planet. Tomorrow he would show them all what it meant to be human. Smiled to himself and went to bed. He slept deeply without dreams, ready for whatever came next. 3 days passed at the academy. 3 days of running, climbing, fighting, and learning. His body ached in ways he had never felt before. The gravity on the station was set higher than Earth's normal level, making every movement harder. The food was strange and tasteless. The other cadets avoided him like he carried a disease. But did not complain. He woke up early every morning, trained harder than anyone else, and went to bed exhausted every night. The instructors watched him with curious eyes. They had expected the human to fail quickly. Instead, he kept going. On the 4th day, the announcement came. All first-year cadets will report to Medical Wing 7 for the pain tolerance examination, the speakers said. Testing begins in 1 hour. Who had become his only friend at the academy, looked sick. His fur was standing up on his body, and his ears were pressed flat against his head. "I heard stories," said quietly as they walked toward the medical wing. "Last year, a cadet from the species died during the test. His heart stopped from the pain." Looked at his friend. "Did they bring him back?" "Yes, but he was never the same. He left the academy the next day," shook his head. "I do not understand why they make us do this. What is the point of testing how much pain we can take?" Thought about the question. On Earth, soldiers were trained to resist torture. They were taught to control their minds when their bodies were screaming. Pain was a tool that enemies could use against you. If you could resist pain, you could resist anything. "War is not clean," said. "Sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes you get captured. They want to know who will break and who will not." Did not look comforted by this answer. Medical Wing 7 was located deep inside the station, far from the main training areas. The hallways here were white and bright, with that sharp smell that all medical places seem to have. Cadets lined the walls, waiting for their turn. Some were talking nervously. Others sat in silence, their faces pale. Noticed another human in the crowd. She was standing alone near a window, looking out at the stars. She was tall, with short black hair and strong shoulders. Her uniform fit her well, and she stood with the confidence of someone who had been trained to fight. Walked over to her. I did not know there was another human here. The woman turned to look at him. Her eyes were dark and sharp, studying him carefully. There are two of us. You are Park. You know my name. Everyone knows your name. You are the human who talked back to Commander on the first day. A small smile appeared on her face. That was either very brave or very stupid. Smiled back. I have been told it was both. Laughed softly. It was a good sound in the tense atmosphere of the medical wing. I arrived 2 days before you. I have been watching how the other species react to us. They think we are weak. They think we will fail. What do you think? Asked. Smile faded. Her eyes grew serious. I think they do not understand what humans are capable of. I think they have never met anything like us before, and I think today's test will be educational for them. Before could respond, a door opened at the end of the hallway. Instructor stepped out, her skin looking almost white under the bright lights. She held a tablet in her thin fingers and looked at the crowd of cadets. The first group will enter now, she said. Her voice was soft but carried easily through the silence. When your name is called, proceed into the testing chamber. Do not speak. Do not resist. The test will begin immediately. Names were called. Cadets walked forward on shaking legs, watched as a large warrior, a species known for their strength and toughness, entered the chamber. The door closed behind him. For a few moments there was silence. Then the screaming started. The sound was horrible. It was a deep, raw scream of pure agony that seemed to shake the walls. It went on for 10 seconds, then 20, then stopped suddenly. The door opened, and 2 medical robots carried the out. He was unconscious, his massive body limp like a broken doll. Level 4, announced calmly, making a note on her tablet. Next. One by one, the cadets entered the chamber. One by one, they came out unconscious or crying or both. The highest level anyone reached was 6, a female from a species that did not recognize, with thick scales covering her body. She had lasted longer than the others, but even she had fallen in the end. Was called, he looked at with terrified eyes. You will be fine, said. Just breathe, focus on something else. Do not let the pain control you. Nodded weakly and walked into the chamber. His screams started almost immediately. They were high and sharp, like an animal being killed. Closed his eyes and waited. After what felt like a very long time, the screaming stopped. The door opened and was carried out. He was unconscious but breathing. Level 2, announced. Felt a hand on his shoulder. It was. I am going in next, she said. Watch carefully. I want to see their faces when they realize what humans can do. His name was called. She walked into the chamber with her head held high, showing no fear. The door closed behind her, waited, listening for the screams. They did not come. A minute passed, then 2. The other cadets began to whisper among themselves, frowned and looked at her tablet. Something was wrong. The machine should have started by now. The screaming should have started by now. 3 minutes, 4 minutes. The door opened, walked out on her own feet. She was sweating and her jaw was tight, but she was walking. She was conscious. She was fine. Level 12 said. Her voice was not calm anymore. There was shock in it. The subject remained conscious through level 12. The whispers became louder. Level 12. No one had reached level 12 in over 100 years. The current record was level 15, but that cadet had not remained conscious. He had simply not died. Walked back to. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her face showed nothing. Your turn, she said quietly. Show them what we are. Nodded. He heard his name called. He walked toward the chamber, feeling hundreds of eyes on his back. At the door, he paused and looked at instructor. "How high does the machine go?" he asked. Stared at him. "Level 40, but no one has ever survived past level 20. The pain at that level would destroy the mind of any known species." Nodded slowly. "Interesting," he said, and walked into the chamber. The door closed behind him with a soft click. The room was small and round, with metal walls covered in sensors and devices. In the center was a chair made of dark metal, with straps for the arms, legs, and head. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead vines. A robot approached him and pointed at the chair. "Please sit. The test will begin shortly." Sat down. The straps closed around his body automatically, holding him in place. He could not move. He could only wait. A speaker on the wall crackled to life. His voice filled the room. "The neural stimulator will now activate. The pain will increase gradually. Say the word stop at any time to end the test. Your score will be recorded based on the highest level you endure." Took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He thought about home. He thought about the mountains near his town, covered in snow in winter. He thought about his mother's cooking. He thought about all the pain he had already survived in his life. "Beginning level 1, announced." Felt something. It was like a small pinch, barely noticeable. He opened his eyes and looked around the room. Was this it? Was this the terrible pain that made warriors scream? He waited for more. The pinching feeling stayed the same. Level 1 complete, beginning level 2. The feeling grew slightly stronger. It was uncomfortable now, like someone pressing hard on a bruise. But it was nothing compared to the time had broken his arm during training. It was nothing compared to the fever he had survived as a child, when his temperature had risen so high that his mother thought he would die. He sat in the chair and waited, wondering when the real test would begin. Outside the testing chamber, the observation room was silent. Instructor stood at the main console, her fingers moving across the controls. Commander had arrived after hearing about's result, and now he stood behind, his dark eyes fixed on the screen that showed the inside of the chamber. On the screen, Park sat in the chair with his eyes closed. He looked calm. He looked peaceful. He looked like he was taking a nap. Level 3 complete, the computer announced. Beginning level 4. Checked the readings on her screen. The neural stimulator was working correctly. The pain signals were being sent directly to the subject's brain. By now, most cadets would be screaming. By now, most cadets would be begging to stop. But the human just sat there. Level 4 complete, beginning level 5. Commander leaned forward. "Is the machine working properly?" Ran another check. "Yes, Commander, all systems are normal. The pain signals they are being received. The human's brain is registering them, but," she paused, looking confused, "but his stress responses are minimal. His heart rate has increased only slightly. His body is not reacting the way it should." "Impossible," said. "At level 5, the pain is equal to having a limb removed without medicine. No species can ignore that." Level 5 complete, beginning level 6. In the observation room, more officers had gathered. Word had spread quickly about the 2 humans who had broken records. Now everyone wanted to see what would happen. Stood in the corner, her arms crossed, watching the screen with a small smile on her face. Level 6 complete, beginning level 7. His hands were shaking now. This was wrong. This went against everything she knew about biology and pain responses. The human should be unconscious by now. The human should be broken. But the human just sat there, breathing slowly like he was meditating. Level 7 complete, beginning level 8. Commander turned to, "Explain this. What is happening to your species mate?" Smile grew slightly wider. "He is waiting, Commander." "Waiting? Waiting for what?" "For the test to begin." Stared at her. "The test has begun. He is at level 8. No known species has ever remained conscious past level 10. shook her head slowly. Commander, you do not understand. On our planet, we live with pain every day. Our bodies are constantly fighting gravity, fighting temperature changes, fighting diseases, fighting our own muscles as they break down and rebuild. The pain your machine creates, she paused, choosing her words carefully. It is not new to us. It is familiar. It is like an old friend that we have learned to ignore. Level 8 complete, beginning level 9. Suddenly stood up from her console. Commander, I need to speak to the subject. Something is wrong with the readings. Nodded, do it. Pressed a button on the console. Her voice echoed inside the testing chamber. Human, can you hear me? On the screen, opened his eyes. He looked directly at the camera and felt a strange chill run down her spine. His eyes were clear. His face was relaxed. He did not look like someone experiencing level 9 pain. I can hear you, said. His voice was calm. How do you feel? Asked. Thought about the question. The pain had grown stronger over the last few minutes. It was a deep, burning sensation that spread through his entire body. It was uncomfortable. It was annoying. But it was not unbearable. It was not even close to unbearable. I feel fine, said. Looked at Commander. The Commander's face was unreadable. Level 9 complete, beginning level 10. The burning sensation increased. Could feel it in his bones now, like someone was filling his skeleton with hot metal. He took a slow breath and pushed the feeling away. It was just a signal. It was just his brain telling him that something was wrong, but nothing was wrong. The machine was not actually hurting him. It was just making him think he was being hurt. And thoughts could be controlled. Level 10 complete, beginning level 11. In the observation room, one of the officers, a tall, thin creature with blue skin, spoke up. This is not possible. The record is level 15 and that subject was unconscious by level 10. This human is still awake, still talking. Still waiting, added quietly. Level 11 complete, beginning level 12. Could feel sweat forming on his forehead now. The pain was real, it was strong, but it was still not worse than things he had experienced before. He remembered the time he had gotten food poisoning during a training mission. He had spent 3 days unable to eat, unable to sleep, his stomach trying to tear itself apart. That had been worse than this. He remembered the time he had run a marathon in extreme heat, his body overheating, his muscles cramping, his vision going dark at the edges. That had been worse than this. He remembered the time his father had died, and he had felt a pain in his chest that no machine could ever recreate, a pain that no words could describe. That had been so much worse than this. Level 12 complete, beginning level 13. Was standing now, her face pale. He has passed the record. He has passed level 12 while fully conscious. This is unprecedented. Commander said nothing. His dark eyes were fixed on the screen, watching the human with something that might have been fear. Level 13 complete, beginning level 14. His body was shaking slightly now. The pain had moved past uncomfortable and into genuinely difficult. But he had trained for this. Not for this machine specifically, but for pain in general. He had trained to control his breathing when his lungs were burning. He had trained to keep moving when his legs wanted to collapse. He had trained to think clearly when his brain was screaming at him to stop. Level 14 complete, beginning level 15. The observation room was completely silent. Every officer, every instructor, every cadet who had come to watch was holding their breath. Level 15. The record. The highest level any being had ever reached. Felt the pain spike. It was like fire and ice at the same time, spreading through every nerve in his body. His hands gripped the armrests of the chair so hard that the metal bent slightly under his fingers. A low sound escaped his throat, not a scream, just a grunt of effort. But he did not break. He did not ask to stop. Level 15 complete, beginning level 16. Spoke into the microphone again. Her voice was shaking. Human, Park, you have broken the record. You can stop now. There is no need to continue. Opened his eyes again. He looked at the camera. Is this the real test? He asked. Or is this still the warm-up? No one in the observation room could speak. Level 16 complete. Beginning level 17. Took a deep breath. The pain was serious now. It felt like every cell in his body was being pulled apart and put back together wrong. It felt like someone had replaced his blood with acid, but he had felt acid before. He had felt his body torn and broken and rebuilt. He was human. Humans were made of pain. Level 17 complete. Beginning level 18. Commander finally spoke. Stop the test. Looked at him. Commander. I said stop the test, now. His fingers moved toward the controls, but a voice from the speaker stopped her. No. It was. Do not stop, he said. I want to know how far this goes. I want to see level 40. Looked at the screen. The human was still sitting there, still conscious, still talking. His face was covered in sweat. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. His eyes were clear. Level 18 complete. Beginning level 19. Stepped forward. Let him continue, Commander. This is what we do. This is what humans are. We do not stop. We do not break. We push until there is nothing left to push against. Was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Continue the test. Level 19 complete. Beginning level 20. Felt something shift inside him. The pain at level 20 was different. It was not just physical anymore. It was mental. It was emotional. It was like the machine was reaching into his mind and pulling out every bad memory, every fear, every regret. It was like dying while being fully awake. He closed his eyes and thought about Earth. He thought about the sunrise over the mountains. He thought about the smell of rain on hot ground. He thought about his mother's voice, singing old songs in the kitchen. He held on to those thoughts like a lifeline, using them to push back against the darkness. Level 20 complete. The machine paused. The pain stopped. Opened his eyes, breathing hard. His whole body was shaking, but he was still awake. He was still conscious. He was still himself. His voice came through the speaker. It was barely a whisper. Human, you have reached level 20. This is the highest level any being has ever endured while conscious. How do you feel? Looked at the camera. Despite everything, despite the sweat, the shaking, the exhaustion, he smiled. Are we starting now? He asked. In the observation room, no one moved. No one breathed. They just stared at the screen, at the human who smiled at level 20 pain like it was nothing, and they began to understand that they had never really known what humans were. Until now. The words hung in the air like thunder. Are we starting now? The human had asked this question at level 20, the level that was supposed to destroy minds, the level that no being had ever reached while still conscious. And he was asking if they were starting. Instructor stood frozen at her console. Her hands hovered over the controls, unable to move. Commander stood behind her like a statue, his dark eyes wide with something that looked like fear. The other officers in the observation room were silent, staring at the screen, trying to understand what they were seeing. Was the only one who smiled. She knew. She had always known. Continue the test. His voice came through the speaker. I want to see what level 40 feels like. Finally found her voice. Human, you do not understand. Level 20 is not meant to be survived consciously. The pain at higher levels will cause permanent damage to your neural pathways. You could lose your ability to feel anything ever again. You could lose your mind. Considered this. Through the camera, everyone could see him thinking, his eyebrows coming together slightly. Then he shrugged. I have come this far, he said. I want to finish. Commander stepped forward and spoke into the microphone. Human, I am ordering you to stop. This test is over. You have proven your point. Looked directly at the camera. With respect, Commander, I have not proven anything yet. I have only shown that I can reach level 20. I have not shown where my limit is. I want to find my limit. There are no beings in the galaxy who can survive past level 25, said. The machine was designed to go to level 40 because we believed no species could ever reach that high. It was a theoretical maximum, a number on a chart, nothing more. Then let me make it real, said. Silence filled the observation room. Every eye was on Commander. The decision was his. He could end the test now. He could save the human from himself, or he could let it continue and see what happened. Looked at what are the risks. Checked her readings again. The human's vitals are stable. His heart rate is elevated but not dangerous. His brain activity is high but organized. There are no signs of breakdown or collapse. She paused, looking confused. I do not understand how this is possible, but he appears to be handling the pain. Humans are different, said, stepping forward. All eyes turned to her. Our species evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We learned to ignore pain because if we did not, we would die. Our ancestors ran for hours to hunt animals. They walked through deserts with bleeding feet. They gave birth without medicine. They fought through injuries that should have killed them. She looked at the screen, at sitting in the chair. Pain is not our enemy. It is our teacher. It is the voice that tells us we are still alive, and we have learned to listen to it without obeying it. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned back to, continue the test, but if his vitals become unstable, stop immediately. Nodded and pressed the controls, beginning level 21. The pain hit like a wave. It was different from before, deeper, darker. It felt like his body was being turned inside out. Every nerve was screaming. Every muscle was cramping. His vision went white for a moment, then red, then cleared again. He breathed through it. In, out, focus on the breath. The breath was real, the pain was just information. Level 21 complete, beginning level 22. In the observation room, officers began recording everything. This was history. This was something that had never happened before and might never happen again. A human was pushing past the limits of what any known species could endure, and he was doing it with his eyes open. Level 22 complete, beginning level 23. His body was shaking badly now. His hands gripped the armrests so hard that the metal had bent completely, molding to the shape of his fingers. His teeth were clenched so tight that his jaw ached, but he did not scream. He did not cry, he just kept breathing. Level 23 complete, beginning level 24. His voice came through the speaker. Human, your stress hormones are reaching critical levels. Your body is starting to fight itself. You need to stop. Not yet, managed to say through clenched teeth. Level 24 complete, beginning level 25. This was it, the theoretical limit, the level that no being could survive. Felt the pain reach a new peak, a level he had never imagined possible. It was like being burned alive while being frozen solid. It was like having every bone broken while being pulled apart. It was like dying 1,000 deaths in a single second. But he did not die, he stayed awake, he stayed conscious, he stayed himself. Level 25 complete. The observation room erupted. Officers were shouting, pointing at their screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. Commander stood completely still, his dark eyes fixed on the image of the human who had just done the impossible. Beginning level 26. Felt something change. At this level, the pain stopped being pain. It became something else. It became a presence, a weight pressing down on his mind. It became a voice whispering that he should give up, that he had proven enough, that there was no reason to continue. But it heard that voice before. He had heard it when he ran his first marathon and wanted to quit at mile 20. He had heard it when he trained for 12 hours straight and his body begged him to stop. He had heard it when his father died and he wanted to lie down and never get up again. He knew how to ignore that voice. Level 26 complete, beginning level 27. Was crying now. Tears ran down her cheeks as she watched the human push past every limit she thought existed. She had studied pain for 50 years. She had tested thousands of subjects. She had believed she understood how pain worked. She understood nothing. Level 27 complete, beginning level 28. His vision was starting to blur. Colors were mixing together. Sounds were becoming distant. He could feel his consciousness starting to slip away like water draining from a sink, but he held on. He grabbed onto the edge and refused to let go. Level 28 complete, beginning level 29. In the observation room had moved to the front. Her hands were pressed against the glass that separated her from the console. Her eyes were locked on the screen. She had known that humans were strong. She had known that they could endure more than other species, but even she had not expected this. Level 29 complete, beginning level 30. 30, 3/4 of the way to the maximum, felt like his body was not his anymore. He felt like he was floating above himself, watching from a distance. The pain was still there, but it was abstract now. It was happening to someone else. Level 30 complete, beginning level 31. Commander spoke quietly. This changes everything. If humans can endure this level of pain, they cannot be interrogated. They cannot be tortured. They cannot be broken. He paused. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Level 31 complete, beginning level 32. Could barely hear the announcements anymore. Everything was fading. The world was becoming soft and dark and quiet, but somewhere deep inside him a small fire was still burning. A voice was still saying, "Keep going. Do not stop. Show them what you are." Level 32 complete, beginning level 33. Stood up suddenly. His heart rate is becoming irregular. His brain waves are fluctuating. "Commander, I must stop the test." Looked at the readings. For a moment he was silent, then he nodded. "Stop the test." His fingers moved to the controls. "Wait." It was his voice, weak, distant, but still there. "Just a little more. I want to see how far I can go." Looked at the screen. The human was barely conscious. His body was twitching. His eyes were half closed, but he was still talking. He was still fighting. Level 33 complete, beginning level 34. The world went dark. Felt himself falling through an endless void of pain and memory and fear. He saw his father's face. He saw his mother's smile. He saw the mountains of his home, covered in snow, standing strong against the wind. He saw himself standing on top of those mountains, looking out at the world below. He had climbed so high. He had come so far, but the climb was not over. The climb was never over. Level 34 complete, beginning level 35. His heart stopped. The machine started screaming, shouted orders to the medical robots. Electricity shot through his body, forcing his heart to beat again. Once, twice, 3 times. His heart started again. Level 35 complete, the computer announced into the chaos. Subject vitals critical. Automatic test termination initiated. The pain stopped. The machine powered down. Slumped in the chair, unconscious, his body broken but his mind intact. In the observation room, no one spoke. They just stared at the screen, at the human who had reached level 35. The human whose heart had stopped and started again. The human who had rewritten everything they thought they knew about pain and endurance and the limits of consciousness. Commander was the first to speak. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. Level 35. The human reached level 35. Was still crying. His recovery will take time, but he will survive. His neural pathways show no permanent damage. I do not understand how this is possible, but he will be fine. Finally breathed out. She had been holding her breath for so long that her chest hurt, but she did not care. She smiled at the screen, at her fellow human, at the man who had just shown the galaxy what her species could do. "He will be more than fine," she said softly. "He will be a legend." Woke up 3 days later in a medical room filled with soft light. His body felt strange, like it belonged to someone else. Every movement was slow and heavy, but he was alive. He could feel his heart beating in his chest. He could feel the cool air on his skin. He could feel everything. The pain tolerance test had not broken him. It had only made him more aware of what it meant to be alive. A door opened and walked in. She was carrying a small container of food and a bottle of water. Her face showed relief when she saw that eyes were open. "You are awake," she said, setting the food on a table beside his bed. "The doctors said you would need at least a week to recover, but I knew you would wake up sooner. Humans do not like to rest." Tried to sit up. His muscles protested, but he forced them to obey. "How long was I out?" 3 days. Your heart stopped twice during recovery. The doctors were worried. They had never seen a body push itself so hard before. Sat down in a chair beside the bed. "But you are stable now. No permanent damage. They cannot explain it, but you are fine." Nodded slowly. He remembered very little after level 30, just fragments, darkness, falling, the feeling of his heart trying to escape from his chest. "What happened after I passed out?" Smiled. It was a real smile, full of pride and warmth. "You became famous. Word spread across the entire station within hours. By the next day, every cadet in the academy knew your name. By the day after that, news had reached the capital worlds of a dozen species." News of what? Of the human who reached level 35. The human who asked, "Are we starting now at level 20? The human who broke the pain tolerance record by 20 levels and only stopped because his heart gave out. Leaned forward. "You have changed everything, everything." Did not know what to say. He had not done the test for fame. He had not done it to prove anything to anyone except himself. He had just wanted to know where his limit was. He had wanted to see how far he could go. But he had gone further than he ever expected, and now the galaxy was watching. The door opened again. This time Commander entered. The tall officer looked different somehow. His posture was less rigid. His dark eyes were less cold. He walked to his bed and stood there for a moment looking down at the human. "Cadet Park," said formally, "I am here to inform you that you have passed the pain tolerance examination." Almost laughed. "I figured." His mouth moved in what might have been a smile. "I have served at this academy for 40 years. I have tested thousands of cadets from hundreds of species. I have never seen anything like what you did in that chamber." He paused. "You have forced me to reconsider everything I thought I knew about humans." "We are full of surprises," said. Indeed. Reached into a pocket and pulled out something small and shiny. It was a medal, a circle of dark metal with strange symbols carved into its surface. "This is the mark of endurance. It is given to cadets who show exceptional strength in the face of pain. In the 500 years since this academy was founded, it has been awarded only 12 times. You are the 13th. He handed the medal too. It was heavier than it looked, solid and cold in his hand. "Thank you, Commander," said quietly. Nodded once. "Rest well, cadet. Training resumes in 1 week. I expect you to be ready." He turned and walked out, but at the door he paused and looked back. "For what it is worth, I am glad you survived. The academy needs more cadets like you." The door closed, looked at the medal in his hand, then at 13, he said, "Lucky number." Laughed. Only a human would think that. Over the next few days, visitors came to see. First was the young who had been his first friend at the academy. His golden eyes were wide with wonder as he talked about how everyone was treating the humans differently now. "They used to ignore you," said. "They used to look at you like you were nothing, but now they are afraid. I see it in their eyes. They look at you and like you might explode at any moment." "We are not dangerous," said. Shook his head slowly. "Yes, you are. You just do not realize it. A species that can endure level 35 pain cannot be controlled, cannot be threatened, cannot be stopped." He paused. "Do you know what the other cadets are calling you now?" What? The unbreakable ones. Did not know what to say to that. He had never thought of himself as unbreakable. He had broken many times in his life, broken down, broken apart, broken through. But maybe that was the point. Maybe being unbreakable did not mean never breaking. Maybe it meant breaking and coming back together anyway. When was finally released from the medical wing, he found that the academy had changed. Or rather, it had changed how it treated humans. Cadets from other species no longer avoided him and, instead, they watched from a distance, curious and cautious. Instructors treated them with more respect. Even the food in the cafeteria was better. Someone had apparently researched what humans like to eat. But there were also challenges. Some cadets were jealous of the attention. Some were angry that outsiders had broken their records. Noticed hard looks in the hallways, whispered conversations that stopped when he approached. One day, a large warrior blocked his path in a corridor. It was massive, covered in thick scales, with arms like tree trunks and teeth like knives. He looked down at with obvious hatred. "You are the human who thinks he is better than everyone," the growled. "You cheated somehow. The machines were broken. There is no way a soft, weak human could survive what you claim to have survived." Looked up at the calmly. "I did not claim anything. I just took a test. The machine recorded the results. If you have a problem with that, take it up with the instructors." The leaned closer. His breath smelled like rotten meat. "I am telling you that I do not believe you, and I am telling you that I will prove you are weak. Soon we will have combat training, and when we do, I will break you myself. I will show everyone what humans really are." Met his eyes without flinching. "I look forward to it." For a moment the seemed surprised. He had expected fear. He had expected submission. Instead, he got calm certainty. He stared at for another moment, then stepped aside with a growl. As walked past him, appeared from a side corridor. She had been watching the whole exchange. "You know he is going to target you in combat training," she said. "Yes." "He is twice your size and has natural armor." "Yes." "Are you worried?" Thought about it. Combat was different from pain tolerance. In combat, size and strength mattered. In combat, natural weapons like claws and teeth gave real advantages. There would be a serious opponent. But had fought before. He had trained with humans who were bigger and stronger. He had learned how to use an opponent's size against them, how to find weaknesses in armor, how to end fights quickly and efficiently. He was not afraid. "No," he said finally, "I am not worried." Smiled. "Good, because I am not either. I have seen how you handle pain. I imagine combat will be educational for them." They walked together through the academy, past cadets who watched them with new eyes. The galaxy had learned something important in that testing chamber. It had learned that humans were not the weak, soft creatures they appeared to be. It had learned that beneath the thin skin and fragile bones was something harder than any armor, stronger than any weapon. Humans could endure. Humans could survive. Humans could push past limits that other species could not even imagine. And this was only the beginning. As looked out through a window at the stars beyond the station, he thought about Earth, about his home, about all the humans who had never left their planet, who had no idea that the galaxy was watching them now with respect and fear. He thought about the future, about the challenges that would come, the battles that would be fought, the history that would be written. Humans had finally joined the galactic community, and they had done it not by being the strongest or the fastest They had done it by being the ones who would not quit, the ones who would not break, the ones who, when faced with the most extreme pain imaginable, simply asked, "Are we starting now?" Smiled and turned away from the window. Training resumed tomorrow. There was still so much to learn, so much to prove, so much to become. But he was ready, he was human, and that, he was beginning to understand, was enough.